been able to be broken. But
so I want to be honest with you, because those children, they end up with alcoholism. They end up they didn't break, but they end up most likely substance abusers.
Well,
either cigarettes or drinking or drugging or nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. I talked about that a little bit too in the intro of the show. Over the years, I had to go through AA program for 3 years, and I had to complete 3 rehabilitation programs in the family courts. And I've witnessed a pattern with these gang stalkers. They will target somebody that's sober until they fall off the wagon. Until they break. But not only that, they'll target them, and then one of them will come in and say, "Oh, we understand what's going on. Here, let me fix you up. I know what they're doing. Let me make it all better." And they won't have the tolerance anymore because they've been sober for...
It's all fake. You're looking for... It's like the person all of us are the Jews looking for help from Hitler in family court. All of us.
I know, but
everybody that's in family court right now, you're being targeted for which MK Ultra program. Right. That's not about money, because they print money up, and $50 trillion is missing from this system over like the last 20 years. 50 trillion. Catherine Austin Fitz talks about it.
But what they'll do, Aleah, is they'll target these parents that are winning their cases, that are staying sober, and they'll target them until they fall off the wagon. Then one of them will come in, give them a fix, a large overdose, so they kill themselves. I've seen
it. But that's the plan. It's a couple of plans, right? Remember, this is a family court is a sister program to Hitless Programs. Hitler Programs wasn't just concentration camps. It was eugenics. It was creating. It was chemical warfare. It was prison labor. Hitler had prison labor, mass incarceration. They provided labor to like Hugo Boss. They provided a lot of the Puma and Adidas came out of Hitler's mass incarceration program.
To actors too that try to get clean and straighten up their lives.
That's the goal. Yeah. That's the goal, because with the actors, the celebrities, most of the celebrities that's under MK Ultra mind control, which Roseanne spoke about for like the last 20 years, most of the celebrities that's under MK Ultra mind control, they're like, we give you money to work for us, and we need you to control the masses. We need you to support our agendas, our New World Order. They call them New World Order agendas, Agenda 21, go back to Tavistock, go back to Illuminati, and the founders of the Illuminati is the Illuminazis. Yeah, I don't know if people know that those bloodlines, they're considered Nazi bloodlines from 600 years ago. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Pacers, the Brofmans, the Bush family, our President Bush.
Well, that's your Bloods and the Crips, right? Or the same.
Well, and the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yeah, exactly. Right, pick your football team, basically.
Right. And also the controllers of they control the Freemasonry, they control the KKK, they control the police, they control our government. We call them the deep state, and what we have to do is identify the controllers. That's the Hillary Clintons, that's the James Comeys, that's the Loretta Lynches, that's the Obamas. We have to identify them, which is good. Like, Epstein got busted. We've been praying for this for a long time. You know that, girlie. Yeah. And I told you, let's just keep praying. It's going to break. This is a system that's been in place for over 600 years. Mm-hmm. Family court, sex trafficking children go back to the orphan train in the 1700s. Then before that, it goes back to the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church, where you get the Roman Greco, the pederasty, the pedophilia. It goes back. This is a long history. Another book which is really good is called The Eaters of Children. pedocracy.
Oh,
Eaters of children.
That's a great book.
Yeah, I just started reading it about a couple of weeks ago. It's like 800 pages. I'm almost done, but I really like how they detailed. It's trust me. I read hundreds of books. I read books on splitting mind into pieces about Allison. I read Satan's Children, how the goal was to Satanize children in America through MK Ultra mind control. It's called Satan's Children, and they targeted white children to implement their New World Order program, and they called them Satan's Children. That's the name of the book. And, there's another book called Satanization of America. You could go into pawns in the game. Tracy Twyman just was murdered last week. She wrote the CIA mind-controlled sex slaves. And the founding father of the CIA is Hitler. All of Hitler programs was transferred over to the CIA. And we got to put this truth out there. All of the MK Ultra programs was implemented through the CIA, and Hitler is the founding father of the CIA. They changed the names. It was the OSS, and then it became the CIA. But it was all based out of that Project Paperclip. When they, I think Hitler was a Manchurian candidate from my research, and a lot of people agree with me who I research with. Hitler was a Manchurian candidate because he was financed by the Bush family, Prescott Bush. He was financed by Wall Street bankers in New York City, from where I'm from. He was financed by his genocide was financed by New York City and Prescott Bush, which is the father of George W. Bush, he worked for the CIA, and also the grandfather of the retard George Bush. So, these are your enemies. They're not just our enemies. They're the enemies to the planet because they put systems in place for our children to be taken under the guise. It's always under the guise of something charitable. It's always under the guise of something family law card. It's child protective services. Hitler coined the term best interest of the child. Hitler made that term up that they use in family court nearly every day to this day for over 40 years. That's a Hitler terminology. So we just have to be honest, because I feel like us not being honest and pretending like, or just because it's not affecting you, that you can't put like a positive energy and vibration into people that's being harmed. Like when a person is being harmed, or especially I focus on the children, because that's just like the adults fighting online, and like, that's why I withdrew from most of the movements. I was a part of hundreds of mommy movements. Yeah. And I can't take the infighting because I'm like, it bothers my soul and my spirit to know that a Jonah Reef is out there being satanically, ritually abused. And to know that a Lexi Dillon is being ritually abused.
The movement
to know that your child, Aiden, was harmed. That bothers my soul. I can't get... My focus is on saving children. And a lot of people, remember, if you Google my name, back in 2015, 2014, I was classified as what they called me, the anti-Nazi CP, okay, hold on, the anti-pedo crusader, when they were doing I was talking about the government sex trafficking children and calling it Pedogate back in 2015. Hold on.
Yeah, you've got all the terminology in your hashtags. I use your terminology sometimes. I mean, the objective is these gang stalkers online, Aleah. The objective is to target the children, and they work for these corrupt family courts and legal clergy, and they are online.
Well, family court is connected to DARPA. That guy, James Holmes, he was a foster child. Well, not a foster child. He was stolen as a child. The one that shot up the movie theater, he was stolen as a child, and he was in their DARPA MK Ultra programs. And then the other one that shot up the school, he was a foster child, Parkland school shooter. He was a foster child. He was in their DARPA school shooting programs. Basically, a lot of parents that I speak to tell me that their 10-year-old is being trained. The court stole their children. Their 10-year-old is being trained to be a shooter. Their 14-year-old is being trained.
Judges are actually placing them in these homes where there's isolation programs, there's sexualization agendas, there's molestation.
That's the voodoo. That's MK Ultra voodoo. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying there's different programs. Some aren't as harmful as others, but they often have, the results are the same. I've often heard former foster children talk about being extremely isolated. Not much socialization or contact, or sexual abuse, or psychological abuse, electrotherapy.
MK Ultra. That's the rituals they need to put in place to break the child into a Manchurian candidate. All of that, isolation, starvation, sensory deprivation, heat and cold. You always it was a little girl. She was about 2 years old, and the mother that's running those children that were murdered, the lesbian women that mass murdered those 6 foster children.
Oh, yeah.
They were doing their own little MK Ultra program. They were heavily involved in Wiccan, and Wiccan is affiliated with Aleister Crowley. The guy that started it, he was a follower of Aleister Crowley. So all of this is voodoo. All of this is basically
they also
voodoo.
have
MK Ultra is voodoo.
That transgender gang stalking thing online. When they're targeting people that don't agree with their dogmas, that's a dogma. Right. That's not, saying your sexuality does not give you permission.
I worked with transgenders. Sorry to cut you off. I worked with transgenders for over 10 years. I was doing the injections on transgenders when they were banned to Ellis Allen, Ward Allen. I think they also call it Blackwells Allen. I was doing the injections and called under the guise, I guess, of healthcare, because I thought I was doing something that was considered healthcare. But 99% of the transgenders, unfortunately, are MK Ultra Manchurian candidates. They all, I know in the black community and in the white community, but I like to stick to the black community because that's a community that I'm in 24/7.
Me too. I do the same. I know about, I talk about my experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I all of them get a check for mental illness. Like 99.9% of black transgender get a check for mental illness, and even in the white community, but in the black community, over 50% have HIV, and they don't share that, and that's very bothersome to me, But they all get a check for mental illness, all of those different Manchurian candidate type of mental illness, multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, body image, like dysphoria, all of these different disturbances. And I know in the black community, a lot of these guys went into jail like regular, and they came out. I'm talking about like they went into jail, which is like gang bangers. And, before integration, we didn't have like gangs in the black community. Before integration, we didn't have HIV in the black community. I don't know if you know that. Like a lot of, horrendous warfare, but I know from my experience, everybody is catching a different hell, but they're catching a different type of hell. Yeah. But the transgender programs are Manchurian candidate programs. Don't let anybody else tell you different. They're all a form of multiple personality disorder and trauma-based mind control.
Yeah, and it's to conform to one of these labels, and conforming to them, it's like everything's inverted. So it's like that their own little, like, their hell is heaven. That freedom. There's no freedom.
That's where the Baphomet come in from, the transgender goat with the breast and the penis at the bottom.
Yeah.
And on one arm, he says solve, and then the other arm going down is coagula. Solve is to dissolve everything that's of God, dissolve everything that's of righteousness. And then the coagula is like coagulant, to put back together again. Like blood clotting, coagulate. and that's to put back together again, and then that's down, and that's just for like Satan, for demon, for Luciferianism, for evil, right? So that's why everyone worships the transgender goat.
Yeah, it's conformity to a death cult.